holding it.
Just in case we need to adjust it when I sit back. That's about right. Good stuff. So, good morning. Where has the sunshine gone? Knew it was going to go. Lady Morrison's very kindly told me yesterday. Don't think her name was Barbara. That's a reference to something slightly different, but it's out there now. The lady at customer service was changing the fan to cool Levi's room down, which I think will still be relevant. That's the thing.
Oh, he had it on last night.
He had it on last night. Cool. So, I don't mind the rain. I'd say the worst rain is this rain. When it's warm and raining. What do you wear? I mean,
just your skin's waterproof, so
I know that, but
close.
you know, I know that, but you kind of got to protect yourself. You dress up for the elements, don't you? And there's no kind of, not really many items of clothing you can wear that are breathable.
You mean like the sports clothing that you're currently wearing that dries really quickly?
It does dry really quickly, but I didn't want to have to like change it twice this morning because I have to change it anyway between 8 a.m. and doing 9:30 a.m. on Instagram.
What would say 8 a.m. and 8 p.m?
No.
No.
I will change in between.
Oh man,
times.
I'm really thirsty.
Really thirsty. There you go. So, you know, any solutions, guys, other than just get wet, which I absolutely don't mind at all. You know,
I think that is
has anyone invented a really lightweight and breathable? I mean, they probably have.
Waterproof? Yes, of course. I just direct you to the Under Armour store or Nike or something like that.
Okay, all right. Then the next issue is, has anyone come up with a solution for when the front of your phone gets wet and you're trying to do a live lunge
Yeah,
and
you can
listen?
get waterproof cases.
Yeah, but my camera flipped around as I was doing it and it really confused me, like, has this gone off? Oh no, still live. Now everyone's just looking at the field and not at me.
They might prefer that.
They might have preferred that, but, you know, full disclosure, I did stop lunging to sort it out and then got back into it. And it was quite a long one this morning. And I'll tell you why. Now,
Okay.
I shuffled around a little bit. I have a little schedule, loosely, about what I'm going to talk about. But with the social media blackout yesterday, I changed around what I was going to talk about and changed the focus of what I talked about.
Good.
And just from what I've read, and I'm sure have good things to say about this in a sec, I think all of what everyone's talking about with racism and, you know, and some people have tried to kind of segue in other cultural and societal issues, which, you know, fair enough, there's lots wrong with society if we look at it. Taking racism issue and really any issue, it comes down to personal responsibility, and we can't, that's what I said on this lunch and listen this morning, the government can't legislate thinking. They can't legislate for thinking. They can legislate for behaviour, so they can legislate for racially motivated crime. So if something does actually happen to someone, which is obviously horrendous, then the police can intervene and the authorities can intervene. What the government can't do, or any government, I'm talking generally worldwide, really, they can't legislate for thinking, you know, and I'm sure we could probably point to examples in other countries where they do try to, you know, but it still doesn't mean that just because authorities say this is what you should believe and what you should think about an issue, doesn't mean that people will. It just means they, in a sense, hide it, take it underground, internalise what they actually think. That's why, and from what I can gather, well, a lot of people in the black community are saying is it's not enough just to be passive, non-racist, and in a sense just be a good person on the sidelines. It needs to be actually that in action and in thinking you are doing something.
And in educating yourself.
And educating yourself, yeah. And that's not, I don't mean like to start full-scale activism and things like that, but in our kind of close world, we tackle wrong thinking. If someone says, like, I'm terrible in a sense for banter, and it's the, realised the last few days is kind of the general comments about any people group that in themselves are not bad, but where does that thinking come from?
Yeah.
How far does that go within me and across society? When we say something generally about any population, that we are either distant or close in terms of proximity, where's that coming from? And actually I've come to realise that certainly in my late teenage years and in my 20s, a lot of my kind of banter, mickey taking, things like that, was more to do with how I felt, was more to do with me inside rather than it was about those people. Sometimes in the context it was to be funny, therefore be accepted into the group I was in. And probably that's where it came from. So it's more down to insecurity. And I think if we actually take it quite deep, then it is down to insecurity of, it's, I think, I can't speak for people in America or wherever, but there's that fear of difference. And that's where some of it comes from. And I think just because someone looks different and does something different doesn't make them any different. It's really, really a very, very strange way to say it. I put it on my Instagram post yesterday that even genetically identical twins will be different in attitudes, thinking, character, things like that, because we all have slightly different experiences, and how those experiences kind of sit with us, particularly through childhood and things like that, change people's development, therefore their thinking and kind of where they end up. So to treat someone differently based on essentially DNA, and we've all got the same DNA, it's just very, very slightly, very, very slightly different.
Well, we're not too far off from a banana, are we?
No,
to be
exactly.
honest.
Then that's it's unacceptable.
I think the thing for me is that, like, I don't know, I have never understood racism. I genuinely haven't. At the same time, I have never asked myself the question, what would it be like to grow up never feeling 100% safe? I've never asked myself the question about what white privilege actually brings me. And honestly, in the past, when there's been kind of Black Lives Matter hashtags, there has been a part of me that has thought, well, yeah, of course Black Lives Matter, but all lives matter, Hispanic lives matter, and white lives matter, and and I've seen a lot of people putting that, and yeah, of course they do, of course all lives do matter, but at the end of the day, I need to take a real hard look at what my white privilege has brought me. And do you know what my white privilege has brought me? Walking into job interviews and being offered jobs that I am not qualified for.
Yeah.
Because I come across as trustworthy and hardworking. And I have gotten myself out of difficult situations because of my white privilege, because I can smile sweetly and say, oh, I'm ever so sorry, and I will be taken at my word. I have had access to brilliant education. I have had access to any opportunity really that I would like, if I'm prepared to work hard enough for it. And even for those of us in the white community who have had traumatic upbringings and have had to fight their way out of trauma and poverty, which is awful. Obviously, it's awful. But there will still be, from a lot of people, if you put on the right clothes and you act politely, you present in the right way, people will offer you opportunities. And I have never, ever taken the time to consider whether actually the black community has that same privilege. And they don't. They don't. Whether you're in America or you're in England or wherever you are. And
I think whenever whenever you, I don't know, I've kind of thought about this before. I often go back to my experience in teaching, and any group of young people that is in a school that is a minority will congregate together naturally, and whether they kind of think about it or not, being a minority, that's to do with safety in numbers.
Yeah.
You know, I've worked in schools with very, very diverse student body, which that's how it should be. That's representative of our country, but the black kids will stick together, the Asian kids will stick together, the girls will stick together, the boys will stick together. The boys generally will cross over much more readily. There seems to be much more common ground through things like sport, and whatever that. They just seem to be able to find more common ground. But when push comes to shove, they'll kind of taught us back into their individual groups. If there was an issue between boys in a school, completely nothing to do with culture, race, anything like that, you'd still find, if you looked at it just from a distance, it would look like the lines were drawn culturally. I've seen it, when I worked in the last school I worked in had probably 80% boys actually. So the girls would literally stick together. And certainly for me, most of the time, I always let them sit together. Not because it doesn't make them easier to manage, because they want to chat and but that's just safety for them. Yeah. It's a feeling of being insecure, and that's the same. And actually, in that school, being inner city Bradford, there was a much higher population of, it was probably 90% Asian community students, but the boys of other ethnicities were integrated much more easily into that than the girls. And when you see them, you don't really. It's like taking this to just kind of step back and go, actually, they stick together. Partly because teenagers are teenagers, and also because that helps them feel more safe and more secure. Yeah, and I've never had that.
There's a brilliant video that Trevor Noah did.
Yeah.
That I think explains it for me really well, because I actually feel like I have nothing to say. Yeah. I feel like in a sense, what the heck do I don't know. I've never lived that. I can't possibly begin to imagine. So why should I say anything? Except for I should say something, because my white privilege means that in a sense my voice will be listened to, which is crazy. And also just that the more people that are prepared to say this is wrong, just in our social groups, just where we are, the more people that are prepared to open up a conversation, just open up a conversation, right, with the people in your world. It feels awkward. It feels maybe embarrassing. It feels like you don't know what to say. There's something going on that is really, really wrong. And I think, for me, the only thing that I can do is look into myself, look inside, really maybe some dark places that I don't really want to look at, and take responsibility for that, and also educate myself and learn about the history, and learn about really what's going on now, and be prepared to look, and then be prepared to potentially lose some of that privilege in an effort to make it more right.
I think you said about it starts local in a sense, right where we are within our families, and slightly wider. If I'm using the example of how it would usually be expressed around me, if challenging something doesn't need to be too heavy in the sense of, it doesn't even need to be there and then, but kind of drawing someone's attention into why do you think that? You know, why do you have kind of this general thought or comment towards this people group? And it might be just, well, that's what everyone said growing up, but is it true?
Yeah.
And if it's not true, we need to stop saying it. We need to stop thinking it. Or sometimes people do have experiences, but they're experiences with people. They're not experiences with a race or a culture. They're generally experiences with people. We could make loads of sweeping statements, and clearly people do. And there's whole groups of people formed around these sweeping statements, like BNP, EDL, all those sorts of things. Just for an example on that side, okay. And it's formed this whole kind of thought processes going on as general statements, as general sweeping things. Individual people do ultimately can end up doing bad things, but that doesn't make the whole people group they come from bad.
And also,
or wrong, or should be treated different.
You've got to take into consideration. If we have, say for instance in school, right? If we had a young person in school, who's from a white community, but who came from a very poor background, who had a lot of struggles growing up, you take that into consideration when you're dealing with certain behaviour. And in the same way, it's like what Trevor Noah was saying about like the looting and stuff. Clearly looting is wrong.
Yeah.
But at the moment, people feel disenfranchised. At the moment, people feel like the cultural agreement that they made with that country has been broken repeatedly. And so why would they uphold that cultural agreement? Why would they uphold an agreement that leaves their brothers and sisters murdered in the street? You wouldn't.
No. So.
Man, that was really heavy.
Heavy today.
Thanks, Mark.
Yeah, well,
It's important, though.
Yeah, it's important.
It's important to have conversations that are difficult.
And I've been thinking about it. It's been weighing on me a bit, really. It's good to just put it out there, in a sense.
Yeah.
I don't think if anyone's take on it is moving in a positive direction. It's so hard to get it right. So,
Yeah, let's just look inside ourselves and open up a conversation and be prepared to be educated.
Yeah, definitely.
I reckon.
Definitely. Cool.
Awesome.
There we go. So, yeah, if anyone actually has got any good articles or things they've read or videos they've watched, please share them, because as much as we can kind of know better on this, then
let's do better.
Let's do better. Yeah, it's know better and do better.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
So, have a good Wednesday.
Yeah, have a beautiful day. Enjoy this lovely rain.
Yes. Right, guys. And we'll be back tomorrow morning, hopefully with a little bit more bright and breezy. This is very, very important. So have a great day.
See ya.
And we'll see you later.